You're listening to the IB4E Coaching Podcast.
Brought to you by IB4E Coaching, business coaching for executives, entrepreneurs, and small business professionals. Learn more at ib4e-coaching.com.
Hey, Coach Harlan here. Welcome back to the podcast. Hope you guys are having a phenomenal week. I'm excited because this week I have a very special guest returning to the program, Mike Michalowicz. Mike is an author of best-selling books, Profit First, Clockwork, Fix This Next. His latest book, All In. His mission is to simplify entrepreneurship and give business owners like you the tools to grow sustainably, profitably, and with less stress. If you've ever struggled with cash flow, with hiring, stepping away from the day-to-day, or just trying to figure out what the heck to focus on next, this conversation is for you. I'm thrilled to welcome back to the Courage Lead, author, speaker, and entrepreneur, Mike Michalowicz. Let's dive in. Mike Michalowicz, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you doing, sir?
Oh, it's great to be back with you, Harlan. Thanks for having me.
It's good. Yeah. We talked in 2023 on the podcast. And I remember that time because I was rewatching the episode. You're an author, love your books. But you told a story during that time about an English teacher, English professor that criticized your writing style.
Oh, yeah, Mrs. Strucco. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember her. Yeah.
Tell me about that. What happened?
That's funny. That was back in high school. And I think I got a D in English. And I think the criticism was I wrote too conversationally, like you and I are talking now. And I probably put the word like, comma, like in the way I wrote. And it just didn't match, I think, what was defined as classic English or classic literature or classic writing. And therefore I didn't succeed in that class. But ironically, maybe out of resistance or rebelling against what she said, is like, this is who I am. I'm going to double down on it. And I wrote more and more that way. Admittedly, I didn't aspire to be a writer or an author. I came into it. And then once I did, I tried to write in ways that were not natural to me. And it just sucked. It just sucked. So I said, I'm going to double down who I am. And it served me well. So I'm not criticizing her. I'm not criticizing her.
No, but it has served you well. All your books. I love your books. They're easy to read, easy to understand, very approachable, I guess you'd say. Humorous, because that's just who you are. But insightful. So one question I wanted to ask, just how do you find your voice as an author? Is that something you set out to do intentionally, or is that just kind of evolved over time?
It's my natural voice. I got a call from a college buddy who I hadn't talked to in 20 years after I wrote my first book. And the guy calls me, his name's Brian. He goes, Mike, this is the most bizarre call you're going to get, I think. He goes, I'm reading this book for my business. And as I'm reading this, I'm like, this dude in this book is just like this guy I knew back in college in the old fraternity. It's just like Mike Michalowicz. He flips to the front and he's like, it's Mike Michalowicz. And he's like, it's the same dude. I intentionally write the way I speak and see the world. And I haven't changed that. If anything, I've leaned more into it. And it's interesting. The voice is my true, real voice. And the greatest compliment is when I'm on stage, people say, oh my God, like you're exactly who I thought you were. Or when we hang out for a beer or a cup of coffee, people are like, oh my God, dude, you're the same guy. You're a little bit goofy, but you're understandable and you really believe in entrepreneurship. I'm like, yeah.
No, I've got a client that I started him on some of your books, and then he went to audio and was listening to him as he drives around and stuff. And he was laughing. He goes, I'm reading it and I'm hearing this guy's voice in my head. And now here he is. And I'm hearing him on, live and he sounds the same. And to me, that's good. The conversational aspect of it. It's as if you're sitting. Yeah. It's as if you're sitting in a room with somebody, you're just having a conversation with them. And I love that.
And I think what we need to realize is, at least for authors, the majority of my books, and when I say majority, it's the slight majority, maybe 55% of my books are sold on audio. So then that means the minority are consumed by reading. Most is listening. And I think we just have to be aware of that. That's big part of the consumer base. We love like their show, Harlan. We love podcasts. We consume a lot in audio. There was a really interesting study about completion of content. More people will complete audio content than they will written content or video-based content. And even though video is really audio just with pictures, we get distracted, other things come up. But audio, you can be driving to the work, you can be mowing the lawn, you can be consuming it. So we've really got to lean into that, I think, as authors.
Yeah. No, and I think that's why I like your books. How do you know when a concept is book worthy? I mean, I love all your books. Each one of them seems to have its own little framework and everything like that. How do you decide? What's your creative process?
These are great questions, Harlan. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Because it's not often asked. I'm a big fan of it. A little selfish plug here. I have a podcast called Don't Write That Book. I do with a co-host. And the reason I wrote that is because there's so many books out there that don't consider these questions. When I know it's a book concept, is I have a running tab. I use Evernote. It used to be called OneNote or something. I don't know. Maybe it's still called Evernote, but it's a running tab of about 50 book concepts. Something will strike me as like, oh, that's a good one. So I'll write that down. But then I listen for common threads of questions, concerns, or frustrations from my reader base. So I meet with countless entrepreneurs. I'm actually heading out on the road on Friday, tomorrow, to go and meet with some entrepreneurs. And I just listen. What is the common problems we're having? And then when it's a loud enough voice, then it becomes a book. Secondly, it needs to be evergreen. So right now, a lot of people are talking about tariffs and business consternation and struggles. That is a great topic to talk about, but it's not necessarily evergreen. I strongly suspect 6 months or a year from now, it's going to be a different conversation. But when it comes to, I need more sales, that's what I hear over and over again. That's something that's more of an evergreen topic, and that's something I'll likely take on.
Yeah, absolutely. I work with a lot of contractors, commercial, residential contractors. Cash flow is huge for them, right?
Yes.
And they go through this feast and famine type cycle and everything like that, what's the first step a contractor could take to break out of that feast or famine cycle?
Yeah. And that's why I wrote Profit First. There's this seasonality a lot of businesses have. And what I studied was, why do we feast and then go into a famine? The reason is during the feast phase, meaning lots of sales, lots of cash flow coming in, there is also a gorging phase that happens. We consume it. During a famine phase, there's often starvation. So there's not a lack of resources, cash in this case. We go into a famine mindset, which is often desperation and scarcity. So we'll start playing games to collect food. That's when, if it came to diet, this is where you start eating the ants and insects because of desperation. Well, the financial equivalent is we'll sell anything to anybody just to get some nutrients in, but in the long run, it's not sustainable. So I wrote Profit First in part to address this. A real simple technique that contractors can use is when you sell something today, first have a realization that sale is responsible for carrying the business forward for a period of time because you have ongoing operations. An extreme example is, say I make money 1 month a year. I make it all in December. That may be reasonable for like maybe a Christmas shop or something like that, but some businesses make it during a season. So let's just make it real simple. 1 month a year, you make money, and every other month, the 11 months, you make zero. That 1 month of December has a responsibility for carrying the business for the entire year because it still is a full year operation. It just makes its money at one time. Now, to make it really simple, let's pretend you receive $12,000 in that January or in that December. What we're going to do is we're going to slice it. So we set up an account, I call it a drip account at your bank, and you call it drip. You take that $12,000 of income and you put it into the drip account. Then starting in January, $1,000, 1/12 of it comes out and it's recognized income. That's the income that your business lives off of. In February, we do the 1,000. We continue that pattern of 1,000 each month. Last one being in December, 1,000 comes out, but then you also get replenished with theoretically the next 12,000. So it's a way to normalize the business. Some businesses get retainers and they see that as the feast. Like, oh my God, we just got this huge deposit. Well, legally, a retainer is a prepayment by a customer that you are obliged to deliver a service or product for. And if you don't, you are legally obliged to return that money. It's called unrecognized income. Same concept. If a customer gives you $12,000 or 120 or whatever the number is, I'm just putting in 12-piece slices, you store it, and every month you recognize the income, in this case in 1/12, or maybe based upon the portion of work you've done, but you got to recognize it when you earn it, even though you've already collected it.
Yeah. Wow. And that's the thing I like about profit first. We talked about it before. My grandmother, my mom even had the system of the envelopes, right?
It
Divvying
works,
up
yeah.
stuff so you know you have that money at the end of the week or the end of the month you need it.
And what was so great about the envelope system that your grandma and your mom used, my mother did too, was you understand the confines of what you have to work with. So at our home, my mom and dad would make income and they cash in their checks, and some went into like the mortgage. One went into giving back to the community. Another one went into the food one. I remember my mom, when she go food shopping, she'd just grab her food envelope, throw it in her purse, and drive off to the store. And what's interesting is she always had enough money. That does not mean she had the same amount of money. My mother worked part-time at a factory, and sometimes she would work overtime and sometimes she wouldn't. And so there's less income in there. She worked with what was there. We have this amazing human wiring, which is make do with what we got. It is unbelievable how innovative people are, based upon the circumstances around them. Everyone seems to find a way to survive and get by. The interesting downside of that is the more income you earn, you still seem to just find a way to get by and survive. I have friends who've made ridiculous amounts of money and they have nothing to show for it. They blow that money. It's in one hand, out of the other. By dividing money up into envelopes, now you're working within categories. So if before I saw, say, $1,000 came in, I say, oh, I have $1,000 to spend. What am I going to do with it? Now, $1,000 is getting divided up. Maybe there's $75 in the food envelope. And now I'm going to the food store, not with $1,000, ethereal or intellectual budget. I have a hard, fast $75 budget, and now I have to work with that. And it's a whole different game. And because we are so good and we're so effective at working within confines, you find a way, especially nowadays, it's pretty hard to work on a $75 budget, but you find a way.
You find a way.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so your latest book, All In, right?
Yeah.
You talk about building teams. That's something else I think the contractors struggle with a lot. Being able to attract, hire, and retain those great teams. What is it that you think business owners kind of misunderstand about attracting and building great teams?
That's an easy one. I feel like I'm gonna hit a home run, I hope. I think we believe, and we've been told, that you have to set a vision, a corporate vision. Like, what's the company planning to do? Where are we headed? And I want to share all my research and experience indicates that is the biggest mistake businesses make. Let me give you the context behind it. I have a small business. Collectively, we've got 20 employees. I go to my team and say, hey, we're going to achieve $10 million in revenue. We're going to sell this many books. This is what we're going to do. My team isn't going to rally around that. It's not like, oh, that's exciting, $10 million. Mike. That's my dream. That's something that satisfies my fat ego. Like, oh, I can brag about something. Oh, I sold this many books. Oh, those are bragging components for me. What a great leader will do, and I don't consider myself a great leader, I aspire to be greater. And this is one thing that has transformed my business, is I don't set a corporate vision. I set a collective vision. And what I mean by this is I ask every one of my colleagues, what's important to you? Not in the job even, what's important for you in your life? What do you want to achieve? Oh, one person, and these can be visions of all different sizes. One person says, I want to redo my kitchen in my house. I just want a nice kitchen. I'm tired of what I have and I want to fix that. Another person, a colleague of mine here, overcame a potentially terminal disease and was fighting it. And she said, this is where my focus is. Another person wanted to spend more time with their family. Some person wanted to move ahead in their career and had certain goals, but I had to understand it. Once I understood that, the job of a leader is to guide people to achieve their goal. Now, I'm not going to buy someone's new kitchen, but I'm going to keep it at the forefront saying, how's that kitchen going? Is your job giving you the flexibility so you can come home and meet the contractor? What can I do to block and tackle for you to achieve that goal? When I become a proponent, maybe they're number one fan of their goal, they become, reciprocity, the number one fan of my selfish fat goal, which is that 10 million or the books or whatever it may be. We have to understand and put on equal footing the goals and dreams everyone has. And therefore, and by doing that, we can find a way to lock arms and march together, and that will support the corporate dream, which is the owner's dreams.
Nice. Yeah, we always talked about currency. Everybody has their own currency. Some people
That's
it's time
right.
off, some people it's a pat on the back, some people it's money. Identifying what that currency is and then talk to that individual on their level,
Yeah.
how it speaks to
There's a
them,
book,
right?
God, forgive me, I can't remember the author, but it's The Five Appreciation Languages. It's the same author of The Five
Yes.
Love Languages, Gary Chapin, I think, or Chaplin.
Yeah.
We do the five appreciation languages, which is the translation into colleagues. And we run that test for every one of my team members here. Outside my office, I'm in my physical office, and we have cubicles and stuff in the offices throughout. What we have is outside of everyone's space, we call it the POM or POM, the personal operating manual. This is like if you open a new computer and on the box, there's that one big piece of paper that says, here's the simple setup instructions. Same thing. What's the setup instructions for people? And on there, we have the appreciation language. Some people, like you said, like a pat in the back. Some people like a reward, financial or otherwise. Some people just like some nice words said publicly. I'm one of those people. And so we are really aware of how to speak to each other. And we have other kind of elements in this palm, but the connection that happens, the sense of appreciation, that connection is elevated when you speak in someone's native tongue, appreciation language.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've been successful in business. I mean, what, 20, 25, 26? You had your first business, you had multi-million dollar businesses and bought and sold. And but you've probably had your struggles too.
Oh my gosh. My wife and I yesterday were talking about like, how did we end up here? Like we are so in a very positive way. We are so fortunate, but like this doesn't compute. So yeah, absolutely dark struggles. Much of it associated with arrogance or ignorance or a combination. I started a business, my first business, not having any clue of what it entails or takes to be an entrepreneur. I think that form of ignorance is good because if I really knew what it would take, I would have never taken on the risk. And then once I was in, I'd burned the boats to returning to the old ways, and I had to make it work. So that worked to my advantage. But I didn't understand how to manage money, and we bought a house, and then I borrowed against the house just to pay payroll a couple of times, and that almost put us under. I was on the verge of declaring bankruptcy after selling two businesses and making millions. I blew it. Just that was an arrogance that I'll probably never forgive myself for. Just acting like a total idiot, thinking I was so successful and making the world know that, and then losing everything. But it's ironic. My wife and I were talking about that last night. Is that those darkest periods can form a resilience, a bond and connection, a belief and a new understanding. There was a time in me I thought money, that's what all entrepreneurship was about. And now I'm like, oh, entrepreneurship really is about being of service, about expression and caring for community. It's serving others. And money is a extremely powerful tool and helpful for the sustainability of the business and for living a lifestyle that you define for yourself and providing for others. It does all those things, but really it's a platform for expression and contribution. I didn't realize that. I just thought it was a money grab back in the day. So it was those dark, difficult, challenging periods. Went through depression for 2 years, boozed a lot. Those phases, while were painful, I'm grateful in retrospect because of what guidance they gave me.
Absolutely. You bought a couple vehicles in there too. I remember.
Yeah. So I'll never forget. It was around 2006. Sold. I had a company doing computer crime investigation, and we got major opportunities. Fortune 500 comes in and buys the company, and I'm like, oh, I'm a millionaire now. I gotta have such a jerk. I have to have a stable of cars. Whoever says they have a stable of cars is a dick. And so I'm like, I gotta have a stable of cars. What's going to be in my stable? And I remember I started off with a Land Rover, a BMW, and a Dodge Viper. I picked the Dodge Viper because when I was in college, I said, one day when I arrive, I'll have a GTS, which I got. And I just spent money aimlessly, also believing that a moment of good fortune and success, I worked my tail off to get there. I don't deny that, but still, that moment was not a reflection of the norm. But my mind was like, oh, now I'll make millions every year. I'm just going to build and sell businesses. Oh, no, that wasn't the case for me. That wasn't the case for me. It was a total collapse. So those cars went bye-bye. Thank God.
Yeah. But I know commercial contractors that, they see they have money in their account, so they go buy a brand new truck. It's
I
like,
know.
you've got payroll. Yeah,
I
payroll.
know. Yeah. So what
Yeah.
you do is you want to get a brand new truck, set up an account at your bank called brand new truck. As money comes in, allocate a percentage, a reasonable percentage, but first protect the payroll. Make sure that you're earning a living wage. Make sure that your taxes are addressed. And then whatever that percentage is that plays out, and you can use I have a group called Profit First Professionals. They'll guide you through this. Use a Profit First Professional or whoever to identify the appropriate percentage for that truck account. Maybe it's only 1 or 2%. The beauty though is now you really earn that truck. Now you see that money accumulating and you just know you're a little distance away from it. And then when you get it, ah, all the cash is there, it's paid for. There's no worry. The problem with that new truck, because I know contractors and guilty, I did it myself. You get it, and there's this elation of that new car smell and that beautiful truck and that rig you're driving for about an hour. And then you're like, how am I really going to pay this? And oh my God, payroll's coming up. And now the stress comes back. Those moments of elation never offset the stress and worry that comes down the pike. That's relentless. You lose sleep at night, you're struggling. And then another real dangerous risk for us entrepreneurs is we have to show the success. So you got to kind of hide it. Yeah, look at this. Look how successful I am. Behind the scenes, you're wilting. And that's the worst. So you can reverse that, doing the method that I shared. You set up accounts dedicated to your goals.
Yeah, we used to do that when I worked at Lockheed Aircraft. I had a Christmas Club account.
Yeah.
$5 a week or something going into it. And then lo and behold, look at all this money I have to spend at Christmas, and
Isn't it it's unbelievable.
It's gone. Yeah.
It's unbelievable how quickly it adds up. And there's a thing called a compounding effect. You do that Christmas Club, 5 times 50 is 250. And it's nothing. Yeah, do that for 10 years. That's 2,500. But do it with compounding interest rates, 4 or 5%. Now start adding up. You do that for a long period of time, 20, 30 years. It can be a massive amount of money. You're like, I got a couple $100,000 saved up by allocating $5 a day or a week. Yeah, you can actually get there. When it comes to investing and compounding, the sooner you start, the better. So if you haven't started, no worries. Just start today. Don't wait another day.
Yeah, exactly. Start today.
Yeah.
From the lessons you've learned, I don't want to call them failures because you learn from them, right? But the lessons. What should contractors keep in mind when that pressure is really on them, when they're really feeling that, things closing in?
Like financially or just in all aspects?
Yeah.
I think the first thing to recognize is you're not alone, even though it feels like the most lonely time on this planet. You feel like you're the one of one, but you're really one of so many that have gone before you. So the first thing is you're not alone. Secondly, seek an unemotional resource. And what I mean by this is someone that's not in your business, not a family member to get guidance from, because they have an emotional attachment to this. Can you find a mentor, a vendor or client of yours, maybe a little risky because you're doing business with them, but maybe they know somebody just to guide you through it. When someone's not emotionally attached, they can see with clarity. When we're emotionally attached, there's this big cataract in our vision, and it's really hard to see. Secondly, I think there's this hope that there's gonna be a silver bullet fix. That's rarely the case, but you can start a cascade of change by committing to the new vehicle, the new solution. When I say vehicle, the new solution, the new pathway. So it may be setting up one account and allocating a little portion of money to that to get you stable. Another thing is to work with your natural habits. A lot of people will say, well, I'm just gonna get disciplined and I haven't worked out in 20 years, but starting today, I'm gonna start working out. Yeah, that'll be great for a day. You're gonna have a great workout and then you're gonna be sore and you won't do it again. What are the things that you naturally do already that can channel to that workout? For me, I noticed I would say I'd work out, but I wouldn't. But every morning I'd wake up to say I was going to work out, first go to the bathroom, then drink coffee, read the news, and skip a workout. I realized I always go to the bathroom. So I put my sneakers on top of the toilet seat. Can't avoid it anymore. It's my natural path. I grab the sneakers, put them on. I'd walk to the gym. And that little momentum became now habitual. I don't miss it. I'm religious about it. Not because that's who I am as a character, as a person. It's because I put these intercepts in the way. Small changes will affect massive improvements over time. That's the starting point, I think.
Love that. That's awesome. So I love like I said, all your books on your website, Mike Motorbike, which will take you to your website and all your books. You've got a new one coming out in 26.
I know.
MikeMotorbike.com.
The Money Habit. Yeah. So I got a call from a contractor who installs garage doors, big one, called A1. And the owner, the guy's name's Tommy, he calls up. He's like, hey, can you teach this to my employees? I'm like, why do you want your employees to know profit first? He was referring to. And he said, well, he goes, if my employees are struggling financially, that's my problem as an owner of a business because they're coming to work with stress. And it's this I have what's called tinnitus, is a ringing that's constant. He goes, it's like that ringing in the ears that never goes away. The outside world doesn't know it's happening, but it is constant and frustrating and can be distracting because that's how the finances are. I need them to solve it, or I need a way to help them solve it. And that's when I said, okay, now it's time. I always knew this book had to come about, so I wrote it. The Money Habit is rooted in the behavioral concepts of profit first, but there are some significant differences. It's made for people that have a more predictable income, less volatile. So entrepreneurs are very volatile. But if you're an employee of a company, there's more predictability. Or if you're an owner operator, meaning you own a business, but you also operate a business, and you have some form of regular income you're taking, how do you manage that at home? Because if you're not managing your home finances, your home will leech off your business, or your business will leech off your home. They have to work in synchronicity. So the Money Habit is profit first on steroids, if you will, translated for personal finance. It's simpler than profit first, believe it or not. It's easier, but it also works when you don't have these massive swings in income necessarily.
Nice. I like that because a couple of my clients, they want to leave a legacy, but they want to help their employees grow. And I think this is a great step for them. If they can help them be financially set at home.
Oh my gosh, your employees will be forever grateful. And it's, selfishly, if you're an employer, the opportunity too is when your employees don't have worry, they can work harder, they can be more focused, they can perform at a higher level. You're winning. Secondly, financial desperation brings around desperate choices. So if someone's struggling financially, they'll come to the employer and say, hey, can you lend me money? I'm really in a deep spot, man. And now the financial burden's on the company. Or I just need to raise again, man. Just this last time I'm going to ask. It keeps putting financial pressure there. And they may even leave. The solution rarely is to give a person another fish. We all have to learn how to fish. And that's what I hope this book does for all of us.
I think it will. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Mike, this has been awesome. I know your time is valuable. I would love to have you back after The Money Habit comes out.
It would be a joy to be back on your show.
Impact.
And maybe we pull out our guitars. I got one of my guitars there. Maybe we pull out the guitars and we jam out together a little bit.
We'll put it to music. That'll be good.
Yeah, I love it.
Awesome. Mike, thank you so much for taking time out and stuff. Best of luck to you, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Harlan. Good seeing you again.
Thanks, Mike. And again, a big thanks to Mike Michalowicz for joining us today and for sharing real actionable insights that every contractor can use. If you're feeling inspired to take the next step, whether it's paying yourself first, building a stronger team, or finally putting systems in place, don't just let this be another podcast you listen to and forget. Pick one idea and put it into action. And if you're looking for help to apply the principles to your contracting business, then let's talk. Head over to www.timewithcoach.com and book a one-to-one strategy session with me. And thanks again for tuning in. Like and comment on this episode, and be sure to share it with your family, friends, colleagues, and stick around because there's always more coming. And that's it for me, Coach Harlan, saying so long for now.